There's this consciousness that people really love to get into. And I'm sure you've seen it. You might have slipped into it sometimes. We all have, maybe a little bit. Hopefully you know better than to do that. It's the consciousness of doom. And it sounds like awareness when you're doing it. It feels like empowerment to let it into your mind, but it's a counterfeit. It's like a drug actually for your mind. You feel something when you indulge in it, and feeling, that's very attractive, right? It's human nature. Like, I feel something. You feel strong. You feel righteous. You feel like you know something, but you're being poisoned. And this is what it looks like. You wake up, you open your phone, right? Before you even get up. And the first thing you see is a headline that makes you feel enraged. Now, have you done this? I've done this. I now have guardrails, so I don't do it, because I need to use the first part of my day for, clearing my mind and setting my mindset. I use my daily practice for that. But it's so hard to resist. Where is it? Here. It's right here. I've always got it with me. My baby. Let me look at it. I just woke up. What's going on? You scroll a little, and then you're bombarded with all the smug insults about people you don't know, from strangers who don't know you. And you hear about how everything is broken, everything is hopeless, and everything is someone else's fault. And it's hard to resist. So maybe, have you ever done this? You join in and you comment and you repost and you add your little drop of hate into the sea of hate. It's so easy to activate people's hate because it feels like energy, right? So, if you're vulnerable to that, you get the hate, you post, you comment, and you think you're doing something meaningful. You think you just helped the matter. But what's really happening is that you're playing small. You're not rising, you're not creating, you're not loving, helping, learning, solving, healing, changing anything, all those powerful things that require actual strength, actual wisdom, actual restraint of that tendency in ourselves to lash out, to jump on the bandwagon, to just say shit about people. You're feeding yourself, when you do this, on a steady diet of fear and contempt. You're hardening your heart to people you've never met. You're retreating into a kind of a mental bunker where everyone outside, in our imagination we feel that way, everyone outside of the echo chamber, they're idiots, they're evil, or they're both. And all that time, your spirit is shrinking. Have you ever caught yourself doing this? It feels awful. If you do it, you can really go down the rabbit hole for hours, and then later you catch yourself and what am I doing? If you work from home, you could really put a lot of time into this. And I've done it, and it's such an important part of my morning routine to refrain from this. I think I'm better than this. I don't think of myself normally as so vulnerable, but I'll just what? Somebody did an idiotic thing. They flipped somebody off on the road. I have to see the video. And I just hate that part of myself. It's nothing I can use to contribute something good to the world. So if you've ever slipped into that mindset where everything is someone else's fault, that's what's so delicious to our sort of dark side of human nature. There's something wrong and it's someone else's fault and it's probably someone else's responsibility. Where does that go? Where there's no solution except for other people to be stopped and silenced and punished, at least in our imagination. And you find yourself muttering things like, oh, they're such idiots, or I just can't stand this country anymore, or that country, or those people. They should all just be, and then you fill in the blank with your personal hate fantasy. That's not good for you, and it's not good for the world. If you've done it, you're not alone. It's the dark side of human nature, and it's almost impossible to resist doing it sometimes. It's possible, though. You have to be very clear that you don't want to do it, and you have to be very clear why you don't want to do it. But so long as you're doing it, if you're in kind of a trauma space, it's a trauma-driven behavior, because it gives you the illusion of control. It gives you something to feel superior about when you're actually feeling helpless and scared. So it's a substitute for the actual self-esteem that comes from good works. But if you want to heal, if you want to grow, if you want to become the person you're meant to be, you have to stop doing this, the doom scrolling. Not just because it's toxic behavior, but because it simply doesn't work. It doesn't help. It doesn't bring justice. It doesn't change systems or, fix corruption or anything like that. It just divides. It doesn't improve your life or the lives of people you claim to care about. It corrodes you from the inside and divides you from our worldwide human family, which you're part of, as much as it feels hard to deal with sometimes. And it'd be nice if we could just partition off whole sections of the world and categories of people and just be like, there, as long as I'm not them, I'm part of the good people. But being a good person is kind of a daily battle. It takes a lot of self-examination. It takes a lot of willingness to be honest with ourselves and to face what it is. And personally, I would not be aware of, the principles of why it could be bad in the long run if everybody indulges in this divided behavior. Because of course we're fed these memes and these messages, we're fed them. And I'm not talking about one side, let me be clear. But we get all the messages because it gives us that dopamine hit. It gets us to click. Clicking has many rewards for the people on the other end. And some of them evidently are motivated because dividing us helps to conquer us. So don't let that happen. That's how you prevail. That's how humans win this battle. Division is not a feeling, it's a force. It's what happens when you let contempt live in your heart. It's what happens when you rehearse outrage over and over again until your brain falls into a rigid habit of seeing enemies everywhere. And it's what happens when you give up curiosity and settle into a permanent posture of, know-it-allism and suspicion and blame. It's so important to understand that we don't know it all. And before we go lashing out, what could be more critical to the process than to do a little research and find out, what are some of the different points of view on this? So what can you do? First, just don't get into the victim role. That doesn't mean that you haven't been hurt and, in fact, victimized, because this channel is for people who have been abused and neglected as children, and you were a victim, but not playing the victim. There's a difference between having been victimized and not making that your whole identity. What happened to you, what they did, because you can't change that. So you stop organizing your whole outlook around the idea that you're helpless and surrounded by oppressors and victimizers and abusers. You take responsibility for who is around you. Most of us actually do have the power to exercise that. There's some exceptions. If somebody's incarcerated, they don't have a lot of freedom, but a lot of people do find some wiggle room there to change their lives under those circumstances. You take responsibility for the little share of power that you do have, whatever that may be. None of us is absolutely powerful, but we all have some kind of power to change, at the very least, how we look at things. So you stop reinforcing your wounds with doom narratives that keep you in a trauma loop about the past. Second, if you think entire classes of people are hateful or evil or stupid, I'm afraid you're the one who's stuck in the hatred. Now, I'm not trying to pick on you personally, but I want to address this to all of us because we're all susceptible to dip into this behavior, and there's a lot of pressure to do so. When we're confused or overwhelmed about things, and especially as traumatized people, we're very attracted to black and white thinking. Our brains are just kind of overwhelmed. They're not thinking so well. So if somebody comes in and says something with great certainty, we're a little prone to go, that's got to be it. That's got to be it. I'm on board. Yeah, I hate those people too. But we can't let that happen, because if you actually want to heal trauma and you actually want to become your strong self, there's no room for this kind of thing. We have to be the fair-minded people. We have to be the people who are willing to take action and willing to do the due diligence. That's one of my biggest flaws in the past, is making decisions hastily because the pressure of having to make a decision about what I'm going to do, what I'm going to buy, who I'm going to be with, and what am I going to believe about an issue. It's very tempting to just get it over with and go with the loudest voice out there, or whatever makes you popular with whoever you happen to hang around. But is that the right thing to do? In many cases, no, it's not. So we're the ones who need to heal that. We're the ones being dehumanized by our own thoughts. So you don't have to agree with everyone. You don't have to agree with me. But if your default reaction to people is disgust, you're just not living in the truth. You're living in trauma. And trauma, unchecked and unhealed, I'm sorry to say, can do terrible, terrible, terrible damage in the world. to many, many people. Trauma doesn't know how to love. It knows contempt. And contempt is the easiest, strongest, most powerful feeling that's easy for us to access. Hey, I've got a quick invite for you. I made a free daily practice course that shows you 2 simple techniques to calm the storm when you're triggered inside. It's short, it's powerful, and it helps you feel clearer, more focused, and more at ease, fast. Click the second link in the description section below, or use the QR code right there, and you can start your course right away. When I was going through all these, this therapist and then another trying to get help, I remember there were a couple, they were not very clear, I think, on their own principles, and I felt that they were always inviting me to be angry about things and even contemptuous, and that was regarded as strong, powerful feelings that would get me somewhere. But it was my experience that, it's pretty easy to rile up my anger, and now that I've had some healing, I've found that I can just as easily back down off of it and think more carefully about that and be like, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it fair to the person? That's an old saying. I didn't make that up. But to back off of the quick hit of charge that comes from anger and righteousness and just be like, wait a minute, have I considered why does anybody else say something different? And it's pretty amazing. I'm not trying to be high and mighty here, but I spend about 90 minutes reading, and I go out of my way to read different points of view on issues because honestly, I don't trust the single point of view that anybody puts out there, that there's always a right answer. I don't think so. And so I tend to patchwork what I favor, and I tend to stay agnostic about a lot of things because I understand, I don't think I know enough about this issue to really say that I hate this person or that I know exactly what should be done. And as I'm taping this, there's just a lot going on in the world where some people are scared and some people are tuning it out. And that's probably going to be true of the present time whenever you watch this video. But there's a peace and freedom inside that come from being skeptical of great big bandwagon pitchfork thoughts about this is the only way to think. No, that's the only way to think. Anybody who disagrees is a bad person. That's always suspicious to me because that's, who does that? And I'm not saying everybody is this, but it's like narcissist reasoning. Either you're with me or against me. Either you do what I say or you're evil. So we don't want to be that person, but it's an attractive, it's a seductive, nefarious force. It's as they say in AA, a corrosive evil thread, that runs through the human spirit, and it's there and it will activate. I don't think anybody is born without it. It's there with potential to drive us into quite hateful thoughts, behaviors, words, actions against other people. And so the person who has to keep watch on that is also us. And there's that phrase, our better angels need to keep an eye on this and try to use very core, strong principles about, the golden rule, about, there's a word, calumny. And I just learned this word a couple years ago because I was seeing it all the time. I think I made a little video about it. But calumny is when you lie about someone knowingly because you want to damage their reputation. And that was considered like a mortal sin in the past. But how casually do some people do that now? I know they know. And I've done it too. And I'm so sick and tired of what that does to me to engage in that kind of behavior. So the more that I heal and the more sensitive I become to when I'm crossing the line into something that's wrong. It's morally wrong. It's morally wrong to lie about people knowingly. And it's also morally wrong, but maybe, less extreme, to lie about somebody because you didn't bother to look into it a little bit and go, is that really true? And so you hear people say the craziest things about those they oppose. And it causes other people to believe it, and it raises up a lot of anger, and it can eventually lead to violence. And this is the thing about human history is if you trace any sort of catastrophe, where a lot of people died because of other people, that's always where it started. It's always where it started. So, there was some kind of injustice or theft, but people got worked up into believing a whole category of people were absolute shit. That it was necessary, that it was right, that all good people would do this. And so I understand that there are situations where violence is the only way. I understand that. And so many of the things that escalate to violence are really not those things. There's another way. Truth is the only medium where the right thing can happen. Truth is, I can't remember if somebody told me this or if it's just something I deeply believe, but I believe in God. Truth is the only place where God can be perceived. So when we're in the middle of a lie, when we're getting very invested in trying to turn everybody against, we do it to friends, like a smear campaign against a friend in high school, or maybe you had it done to you. I did. I've had smear campaigns done on me. It's awful. It's not true. I think I've told you guys here. I had a neighbor once, and she told all the neighbors that I killed cats, many of them, and it was just ridiculous. I had never killed any cats. I had a cat that I probably should have put down because she was suffering, but I didn't have the heart. And but that's not killing her, and it certainly isn't killing many cats. She told them, like, don't let her have any kittens because she kills them. And she just absolutely made that up. And I don't know, people believed it about me. And when people say something that terrible about you, you seem crazy if you even try to defend yourself. It was really a terrible thing to do. It was entirely destructive to my reputation. It went along with a couple of other things that were not true. And I have no idea why they did it. And that's kind of how this kind of evil force works. You don't even know why you're doing it. I don't know, you get a charge or you feel ashamed about something. I've sort of noticed that shame can be a real motivator to go in and do the worst things that we've ever done. Shame and loneliness. It's probably true of this person. I would imagine it would easily be true that the person who spread these lies about me felt ashamed about generally and also was very lonely. I don't know, but that's no excuse. It was a terrible thing to do, and eventually I had to move. There was no working that out, and it was at a time when I'd already been through a lot of trauma. And now I talk about it here. I don't name names, but maybe it'll get back to that person. I'm like, it just was so terrible. And it's not the first time. And I want to remind you, when you heal, when you start to really use your tools, like for me, it was the daily practice that just like set me free. And I started to be such a strong person and such a shining person. It's a metaphor, but it's almost physically true. It's like you radiate. When you have your inner power back, it attracts attention, and people who are in a very bad place will sometimes feel threatened by that. They feel bad and they compare themselves to you. They're like, look at her. We used to both be messed up and now she's all like doing okay. And I hate her, right? And that's what happens. And then they believe that you're doing that to them. And so as you heal, you're going to see people do that. And then you're going to recognize times when maybe you did it to somebody else, which I did. And now that I'm like on YouTube for several years, sometimes people from my past will see it. And some of them will write to me and go, wow, that's so cool. I saw you on YouTube. And some people, this happened recently, somebody just attacked the crap out of me, sent me like 6 long screeds about what a terrible person I was. And they've got these, I know who it is. I mean, I certainly know who sent the original things with their name on it, but it crops up on YouTube under other names now. So creepy and crazy. And it's funny because they did this to me about 30 years ago about something else. And what the two things have in common is that when they did it before, like many years ago, and I haven't seen them since then because I just totally cut them out of my life after their abusive behavior. What it was I had made a film, and it was really cool. It was really good. It was very inspired and funny and well put together, and it was on a very small budget, and all my friends helped, and they totally trashed me and said everybody had a terrible time. So I'm still processing this. I think I talked about this recently in another video, but they totally trashed me and they said, no, everybody had a terrible time. They thought you were such a bitch. And I cried. I was so devastated. I remember I was on the rug. I was just like, crying, and I never made a film again. And I looked at that. I'm like, why did I never make a film again? Because I won a prize. I made one little film on Super 8 film and I won a prize. And why didn't I do it again? It's kind of what I had hoped to do with my life. It was just because it cut me to the core so bad. Then only the nefarious force can do that. I mean, I think the nefarious force can work through people who are maybe damaged or maybe intoxicated or something, or have a mental illness. I mean, they have to take responsibility, but I just feel like something darker than that is working through them to try to take down somebody who is lighting up, who's doing something creative and wonderful. So I didn't understand why it happened until it happened again. It's like when I have made something creative and other people looked at it and said, wow, I really liked what you did, as they will in the comments, mostly. On YouTube, I get many kind comments. That is just totally threatening to people who are driven by that nefarious force, totally threatening. If one person is shining, then it must be like fatal to them because it's all a competition. And so we have to resist that. Like it gets done to us, and that's certainly how we ended up with CPTSD. But if we're going to neutralize that and not be the vehicles who pass that on, who carry that nefarious force to other people, to kids, to another generation of people, we can't do that because it kills compassion, it kills insight, it kills the ability to grow and be changed by real conversations and to have a new idea of something you never thought of before come into your mind and to be able to actualize it with your creativity. Hey, it's me, and real fast, if you're watching my videos and wondering if maybe past trauma is having an effect on your life today, I want to share with you a list of signs that what you're struggling with now might be connected with neglect or abuse in your childhood. It's good to know this because it can help you know that what's hard for you right now is normal and that healing is possible. You can download my Signs of Childhood PTSD quiz by clicking the top link in the description section below or using that QR code right there. So another thing is take care to not repeat lies or slander. You may see it out there, but you don't need to repeat it. And unless you're 100% certain and you feel it's absolutely necessary that everybody hear this, then there's no reason to repeat it. A good person uses discretion about such things, uses restraint. And I'm so grateful for the friends of mine who have ever been told something like that like I kill cats, who paused a second and thought, what? No, not Anna. That wouldn't happen. She loves animals. So you need to be disciplined about this because you're a human and our human nature sometimes just has a bad day and needs some energy out of the whole thing. It's like a little energy shot. It's like, okay, fine, I hate them, and you jump in. It feels good at first, but yeah, it'll eat you. You need to stop letting outrage be your fact checker. And you need to stop sharing things that confirm your bias just because they feel good. Yes, intense anger feels uplifting when your baseline is way down here or depressed. This is the bottom, like below the screen here, this is like you're dead. And then up here, this is like very, very depressed. And up here, it's like anger. It's like, woo, it feels so good, right? But then you're stuck there. It does not feel good. It'll push you right back down. So using rage for fuel is emotional junk food. And that's how you stay spiritually malnourished. It's just always going on anger. Oh my gosh, some people's Facebook page is just like one angry little grievance after another, and how the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and it's going to hell in a handbasket. Is that helping anything? Even if a given problem is legitimate and real, does that help? So good people can see through it. You haven't helped your cause by spreading, viciousness and exaggeration. You're just making noise and repelling the very people who might have listened to you and been changed. I will tell you though, it'll really, misery loves company. So people who love outrage love other people with outrage. And if they are outraged about the same thing, they can go on and on and on together. And I've been that girl, and I'd never want to go back. It's such an unhappy place. And I am ashamed of all the negativity that I put out there. There's no way for me to even know who it harmed and how much and in what way. It's just like spewed out there. So stop being a noisemaker, be a contributor, bring light, not more darkness, make something, volunteer, teach, create, serve, have a business. When you speak, speak with clarity and truth, not with venom, not with smugness, because truth has power. Hate just has heat and volume. Read about people, study people who are different than you, listen to them. Watch how fast your assumptions fall apart when you really listen. You'll be humbled. You'll be heartened. Actually, you know what I do? I have dinners. I have dinners at my house where I bring together. It's about once a month. They're private. So this isn't like an invitation to you, but I have people who have different points of view on things, and we come together and we eat a meal together. And I've done this in many contexts, a spiritual context, a political context, a neighborhood context. When we sit down and eat dinner together and talk to each other and listen, it's very, very difficult to vilify. We have to start understanding, okay, well, people have different stakes in this thing. And then you can disagree, and then you can go out and do something constructive about it. Maybe you will, but it won't be constructive, and it probably won't even get done if it's just fueled by rage. When you listen to people, you'll see how much we all have in common. People basically want the same things. It's not because we're all the same, but because we're all human. And humans are complicated people, but we all want like safety. We all want kindness. We all want to have enough materially. We all want to, if we have kids, we want them to be able to get an education and hope for them to have something better or at least as good as we had, right? And so when all that is slipping away, people, it's very frightening and we're vulnerable. People can surprise you, though. They can disappoint you, but they can surprise you and they can teach you something if you're willing to stop shouting and listen. It's just like in a relationship, it's shouting doesn't really tend to cause the rift to come together. So don't lump people. Every single person is a unique person with a unique story. Every person has wounds and pressures and beliefs that came from somewhere. And they had experience that you didn't have. And when you dehumanize them, you dehumanize all of us. Nobody is exempt from this blanket of dehumanization. Either we are all worthy or we are all unworthy. And there really is no way for any one of us to decide that there are categories that you get to sort. So yeah, sometimes people are violent and they need to be restrained. I know that. But on the whole, we need to be truth tellers and bridge builders. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone. It means you don't burn down your own humanity just to feel righteous. Isn't that, that's what we all want, right? To live in a loving and just world. We want to be part of something with people. You can't berate people into becoming, loving and just. They don't do it because they were berated. In fact, the opposite happens. So try something radical. Do what the podcaster Chris Williamson calls a content diet. Cut the outrage, cut the noise, cut the trash opinions for X amount of time, like 3 days. Try it. Don't let it fill your mind with clutter. And during that time, instead, read challenging books. Listen to thinkers who don't flatter your worldview. Sit with ideas that stretch you. Let your mind be renewed, not just reinforced, because you don't have to live in a consciousness of doom. When people join you in this endeavor, we're definitely not doomed. This is not the only reality. It's such a handbasket. It's just one that you've been trained to see because it sells, because it gets power from you and gets you to line up and be part of a cohort that helps somebody else get the money and power that they want. Keep it with the people. Keep it human. You don't have to buy what people are selling. You don't have to feed what they're trying to convince you to hate. You can starve that beast. The world needs clear minds and strong hearts right now. It needs people who know how to suffer without blaming, who know how to love without controlling, who know how to build without dividing. So stop playing small. Stop letting one side of the human race be your identity. You are made for more than that. And you are needed in this world right now. Well, this is how friendships fall apart, a really common and normal response to having grown up with trauma. But of course, we all want to work on it and learn to handle it even better.